Hello, everyone. I'm Shari Simon. I'm co-president of the Family Leadership Council. Welcome to Core Values in Action inside the InsideOut program. Before we begin, I have just a few things that I would like to share. To really bring us together, please turn your videos on. I'm going to ask that you also mute yourself until the question and answer portion of the session, though based on this morning, the occasional dog barking is allowed. If you would like to submit a question for our speakers, please add it to the chat box or click the raise your hand button, and you will be called upon after the speakers have finished the program. Also, as a reminder, the Family Weekend Fundraising Challenge to advance mental wellness programs on campus is live. Please join us and the Raskin family, who launched the Strive to Thrive initiative, to help Pitzer College continue to cultivate an environment that fosters mental health and well-being. Last, please join us on tomorrow morning on Zoom at 9 a.m. At the Family Leadership Council's open meeting. It will be a chance for you to meet the council members, see what we do, and how we work to support the college. Pitzer's pathway to BA program offers an incredible opportunity for Claremont College's students and local incarcerated individuals to participate in classes together. Today's panel discussion is hosted by Professor Banerjee, and the panel participants are Leeann Nabors, Kenny Butler, 25, should have said Leeann Nabors, class of 21, Kenny Butler, class of 25, Reggie Bullock, 21, and Freddy Cisneros, also class of 21. As I said, the discussion is hosted by Professor Mita Banerjee. Professor Banerjee is a professor of psychology and the interim chair for the Institute for Global Action and Study, and she has been with Pitzer since 1992. Professor Banerjee teaches a number of courses, including Psych 10, which is Pitzer's Intro to Psych class. So many of your students may have already been in one of her classes. Professor Banerjee's research interests include risk and resilience in childhood and mindfulness and emotion. It is now my honor to turn this over to Professor Banerjee.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Yes, I think Kenny has just chimed in. All of the folks on here on the panel are actually class of 21, 22 actually. We're voting on them as winter graduates next week. So yeah, I'll come back to that in a minute. It's an honor to speak with all of you, and I'm very excited to be able to talk to you about InsideOut and the think tank and the bachelor's program at Pitzer. So just to give you a little background, again, I'm a professor of psychology and interim director of the Institute for Global Local Action and Study. My first visit to Norco was in 2014 when Professor Nigel Boyle, who has really spearheaded this justice education program, just asked a bunch of us to come in and talk about what we did as faculty members, in my case as a psychologist, in terms of our research and our teaching. When I was talking about my classes, when I started to speak about risk and resilience, I really saw people's eyes light up. So I saw the gentleman inside really light up, and I could tell that there was interest in that course. And that became the first course that I taught at Norco. And it very much resonated with the lived experience, I think, of the students inside. And so I've been honored to be teaching at Norco since 2016. I'm teaching my 6th class right now. If you don't know about InsideOut, it's a program that has been around for 30 years. It was started by Lori Pompa at Temple University, and it's all across the country. In fact, now exists across several different countries. With InsideOut, what was different, justice education courses had been there, where there were courses for those who are inside the prison alone. But InsideOut really brought together students from the community and those students inside to be in a classroom together, right? And to try to break down those walls between those communities who might not otherwise be interacting, and to kind of see the sort of magic, and it is magic that happens in the classroom, and to, whatever the topic is, those two kind of groups coming together as one unit, as a group of students. And we also do a lot of, kind of experiential, ice-breaking kinds of things to make that comfortable. As part of the InsideOut program, there's always an advisory think tank group of those folks who are inside. So we had that at Norco, and it was that advisory think tank, in fact, that first said we would like to see a bachelor's program that we could complete. And so that was really where the bachelor's program idea came from. And so we're very excited that this is the first sort of cohort that is graduating. And some of them have already graduated. Others, as I said, next week, I think we're voting on them as a winter graduates, a group of 8. And we're working on now admitting the next bachelor's cohort, a group of 12. And speaking as a faculty member, can I just say that this entire program has really injected so much energy and life into our courses. And we very much feel like this is Pitzer walking its talk in really staying core to its values and mission. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you. That's enough from me. Let me have can I call on the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead with a series of questions. So Reggie, if you want to say a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Reggie Bullock. I've recently have been released out of CRC Norco prison as of December 15, 2021. So really just getting out fresh with the BA degree in organizational studies as part of the InsideOut curriculum. Really it's been a wonderful process being able to be there at the campus and work hand in hand with the faculty. They actually got a lot of us cohort members as working as TAs now. So really we're able to kind of give back to the whole process. Yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Great, thank you. Kenny, if you want to say a little bit.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, wherever time zone you're in. Yes, my name is Kenny Butler. I'm an organizational studies major. Also former senator on the curriculum committee at Pitzer College. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This program has been instrumental in building bonds. Like me and Reggie met inside the place. He turned out to be one of my best friends. So for me, this program has been helping me build better social relations within society and amongst groups that I don't come across on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Freddie, can we hear from you, please?
Yes, good morning. My name is Freddy Cisneros. I'm also graduated with organizational studies from Pitzer College. I'm the first of the cohort that was able to parole and graduate. And I never stepped on the Pitzer campus until I was already an alumni. So I'm proud to say that I'm an active participant in and co-lead organizer for the Justice Education Conference, currently being organized by FICs. And I'm proud to be one of the first to ever implement that at the FICs. It has been a very eye-opening experience, and it has gave me a new sense of self, a new identity as a professional and in my career. And I don't have to let my past define me because of this opportunity that Pitzer afforded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. We'll go through one by one then on this question. What made you decide you wanted to participate in the InsideOut program and then the BA cohort program? Kenny.
Well, for me, I stepped inside the CRC in 2018. Initially, I just signed up for classes to be to get time off. You know, they were giving out 3 weeks per class, and I was just trying to break up the monotony of prison. But once I stepped inside the classroom, I met Professor Junisbai and a class of 12 co-ed, students, and that whole experience just changed my worldview and my perspective. And so I participated in the program for 2 years before. I'm one of the guys who actually advocated for a degree because we were taking classes and with no credit gain, but we were all in, giving it our all to the program. And I just thought that we needed something to show for it, give us some credentials for all this hard work we put in. And so that's what made me join the program. Yeah.
Thank you, Kenny. Reggie.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate this questioning right here is because like while in prison, the inside or incarcerated persons have very limited options, right? Like in terms of vocational training, job placement, and even educational opportunities. So like becoming involved in the InsideOut program, somewhat similar to what Kenny just said, having the faculty be in there and also having the outside students come in and just as having this whole dialogical process as part of the learning process was just beautiful. And then to like, on the secondary aspect of joining this program, the BA program itself, like the whole appeal of leaving with a BA degree, including the capability of networking with faculty and even outside students, right? It just affords us like having doors open to us that were never even open to us before. So that appeal strongly to me.
Thank you, Reggie. Freddie, if you want to chime in.
Yes, being inside was one of the most darkest times in my life, and I really wanted to make my mom proud. So I decided to go into college, for in the beginning of my incarceration, and I would only take correspondence courses. That was the only thing available to us back then. No credit earning, no time off. It was simply because you wanted to go to college, and it was all correspondence. I went through several prisons and then finally came to CRC in I think 2015, 2016. And I also continued my work there via correspondence. And then Norco College came into play. Norco College was the first time I ever had a live professor. So to put it on context, I had reached the zenith. By the time I was there, I had already reached the zenith of what CDCR could provide as a form of higher education. So when I heard that this BA program, at the time I already had several degrees in my pocket. And when I saw that Pitzer College would be offering a BA degree, I jumped on the opportunity. I applied, I interviewed, I wrote letters, I did everything I could to show myself and win over the other candidates. And so there were several of them. And my experience in the class, at first, with not only a live professor, but with outside students, it was really disorienting. But then as we came together and we understood each other, I learned a lot from their perspective, from these youths and their mentality and, the lens from which they learn from and the environment from which they learn from. And it was great. It was great to have this. And that's what I really first wanted to go into this program. It's never been done before.
Thank you very much, Freddie. So the next question, and we will start with Kenny on this one. How has this program in Pitzer transformed your life, and how do you see the world differently now?
What has transformed my life tremendously? I come from a gang culture, from a low-income community in Watts, Los Angeles, and before this experience, I had never encountered, other cultures and other ethnicities. I've been stuck in a space where it's just Black and brown people and low income. And so to be like, I was one of the first students to actually matriculate to the campus. I was a new resource student. And just being in that environment, you know, it just changed my whole perspective, you know, just being able to, you know, walk in a space where I don't have to watch my back like I do in my community. And so it allows me to flourish. You know, I feel like I'm blossoming in the world. I've been home since June 1st, and this has had indescribable impact on my life. You know, it's the influence of like, I'm also a positive role model for people in my community. I have a big family of a lot of boys who have come through the same path I have and are heading down the same path that I was heading on. And so to see me in this light and in this space is, you know, it's motivating for everybody. So it has changed my whole perspective on life in general. Yes.
Thank you, Kenny. Freddie, the same question about how this program has transformed your life or how you see the world differently.
You know, I just said that, you know, that I learned a lot from the youth's mentality. And throughout this process, I learned empathy from the actual students who came from the outside. They showed emotion towards me as I openly spoke about the recent deaths of my immediate family during one of the classes on emotional development with Professor Banerjee. You know, and that was the first time I ever had anybody shed tears in front of me. And so I didn't know how to react. I didn't understand it. I was always taught not to show emotion other than just anger and to swallow it. And so it was very moving for me. You know, her emotional development class taught me how my childhood trauma had lasting effects on my mental and emotional state, which created a fear in my relationships, you know, as an adult, and created a lot of toxicity in them. She also had a class in fatherhood, and it taught me mindfulness techniques and how to respond rather than to react, and how to have forgiveness towards my dad. And because of that, I also, you know, see the world with a different lens. I was able to confront my own sexism and to see how patriarchy as a hegemony had ruled my behavior and my emotions until then. My values have changed, and I'm glad to say I'm a confirmed feminist. So yeah, I'm complete 180, 360 even.
Thank you, Freddie, for sharing that. Reggie, if you want to tell us a little bit about, yeah, your sense of the transformation and how things have changed for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in August of 2015, I had my life sentence removed. So before this program and while incarcerated, I really never had any type of hope or vision for the future. So participating in the educational pursuits with the community colleges, and then transitioning into Pitzer BA pathway program is after having that life sentence removed and participating in this, it actually gave me that sense of hope for a better future for myself. I'd never envisioned myself necessarily as becoming involved in academia, and now it's like I'm kind of trying to pursue this whole pathway from prison politics into pursuing a graduate degree in political science, right? So it's like I never really envisioned that for myself, and it's just it says something about the faculty and the program itself, right? And how transformative it is. It's like my best hope I think I had after having my life sentence removed was, man, I'm going to be dang near 40. And what can I do? Get into construction. And then how long can I do construction for? Right. My body's going to break down and stuff like that. So the other part of like, how do you see the world differently now? Oh my goodness, is our world is very like egotistical and individualistic driven. And so now it just, participating in a program like this, it allowed me to view the world as more bonding, right, or community based. It's like, how can I go ahead and give back to the community, and basically utilize the education that was afforded me in a parallel process, like take in what is being given and apply it to myself, because I can't necessarily give away what I can't, what I don't have myself, right? So that's how I look at this educational process with Inside Out as a parallel process. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Reggie. So the next question, and we'll go to Freddie on this one first. What was the most difficult obstacle to overcome while pursuing this program, InsideOut Program BA cohort?
And this question is as inside, correct? Like what I encountered?
Yeah, if that's kind of where the obstacles were, absolutely.
Sure. For me, navigating through all the noise and potential threats of violence from those who were not part of the academic aspect of the prison was kind of a deterrent. It was a stumbling block sometimes. It's a place where even though you try to stay in your lane, many of those problems try to drive into it and park themselves there. So finding a quiet place to read and study was sometimes difficult. Many times I had to wait until everybody was asleep and stay up to like 4 a.m. to finish the course reads. Also, sometimes not having all day access to the computer rooms, to finish typing and printing our papers was sometimes difficult. We sometimes only had like maybe an hour or two, maybe because various things could happen throughout the prison. There was a lot of lockdowns and operations inside are ever seldom the same. We have a saying that sometimes CRC should stand for constant rule changes, but we we've learned to be very fluid as students in there. The computer rooms have to accommodate not only Pitzer but all the colleges that are currently in there. So, when you have hundreds of students and you only have 30 or 40 computers at the most available to you, it kind of narrows down the time and space that you could actually do your work. So we mostly wrote in pencil and pen and then try to get our way in there and try to type things out. But for the most part, we did what we could, and I think that's the hardest part of it is just the environment where we have to learn from or be in as we're learning outside of the classroom.
Thank you for that, Freddie. Kenny, if you want to give us a sense of what you see as the obstacles and challenges inside and outside, if you like.
Well, for me, inside, my only obstacle was me, not to let my self-doubt get in the way, but once I got into the program and I allowed myself to be vulnerable, I didn't, just in the expressing myself and just being true to who I am, then no obstacles was in my way. Like I didn't have the problems that Freddie said because I was more disciplined. I didn't talk anyway, so I was the introvert. So it didn't many people bother me, besides Reggie. But that's just all fun and games. But yeah, I didn't have any problems inside. I was, like I said, I've been studying law. I had life without the possibility of parole, and had my conviction reversed on my own. I went pro per. I had to learn the law, so that was discipline that I had established early. And so when it came to studying, the classwork, it was easy for me. And outside, my obstacle was COVID. I lost 70 family members, the matriarch of my family, my grandmother who raised me. And yeah, that was a lot. But other than that, it was not anything that I can really pinpoint besides the stress of losing my family members. That was an obstacle since I've been home. I have a lot of support from my family. I have a beautiful wife who supports me, been with me since I was 19 and did this time with me and everything. So I don't have the average obstacles that most guys have coming home. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. And so sorry for those losses in your family. That's right. When you were released right in the middle of the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, it's really, really difficult moment. And Reggie, so if you could tell us a little bit about the challenges and obstacles that you've experienced.
Yeah, really, there's nothing I can even add that my two colleagues right here haven't already expressed. Kenny right here was talking about this whole notion of self being the biggest obstacle. And I would say that that was like one of the strongest things that I as well has or have experienced while inside. But then also having a companion that was there to like actually help just hear me out, like me utilizing her as a sounding board, while I'm going through these obstacles while pursuing this program. But like, is this question also like centered like initially while we were trying to pursue it as well?
Yeah, it could be initial, later, anything you
Yes.
wanted.
So I would also like to articulate then, whereas one of the requirements to pursue this program was that you had to have an AA degree or a ADT, right? An associate's degree for transfer. And so while pursuing this degree pathway I was the only one who had yet to receive an AA native or ADT. And so when everyone else got their package to like put in their applications and stuff like that, I just had someone else run off some copies for me, and I went through the whole process with the hopes of just getting in, so because I was still some courses away from going ahead and completing my degree, but it's like the whole process of showing the faculty there that, man, I can do this. This is something that I strongly wanted. So it was just overcoming that little barrier right there, or obstacle that was kind of standing in my way. And then thank goodness that you guys afforded me that opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. Before I move to the last question, I just wanted to add, which I think is probably apparent now that you've heard these gentlemen speak, but my other faculty colleagues will back me up. The inside students really keep our Claremont students, our outside students, Pitzer students on their toes, because the inside students stay on top of their work. Often they have, with correspondence courses, they would be taking 5, 6, 7 courses, but they would still show up and say, well, here's my paper, my first draft of my final paper, and we're like 2 weeks into the course, right? So, and here's some extra assignment, what other kind of reading I can do. So, I would initially see some of our inside students' eyes sort of like, whoa, what's going on? But it really had them step up their game, because understandably in this context, sometimes college students, take for granted going to college and the experience that they have. But for the inside students, they never take it for granted, not for a second. And I think it really gets everybody to kind of give their best and their most to the class. So thank you. Now for the final question, the question will start off maybe with Freddie this time. What would you like people to know about inside students and what it means to pursue an education while residing at Norco or some other similar institutions? So what do you want people to know about what that experience is like? Freddie?
Well, I would like them to know that individuals inside are just as committed students as they are on the outside. Yet we just have a different environment from which to learn from. There are many obstacles and people who are actively trying to prevent us from finishing our education, but we are resilient, to say the least, and are humbled at the chance to rehabilitate and grow through a higher education pedagogy. And we appreciate the opportunity that many people never had. And this program has taught me that I could have a second chance to live my life right, and that I deserve to treat myself correctly in order to achieve my goals and my vision for my life. While residing in Norco and other similar institutions, you have sometimes a program and a institutional method of your everyday life. When you learn through others and with others, you don't feel like you're in prison. you don't feel like you feel human again. And sorry, I'm choked up, but that's what I want people to know, that it gives us hope. So thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Reggie, if you could speak to that, what do you want people to know about Inside students?
Yeah, inside students are eager learners. Like when you really think in terms of like who is actually always afforded opportunities at education, is that we recognize that education is a privilege, right? And a lot of people can't always grasp onto that privilege that is given to basically to the upper echelon of our communities. And so inside students are more than eager learners, is that they're grasping at this as the lifeline that it actually is, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's that simple.
Thank you, Reggie. Kenny, if you want to respond to that question about what you'd like people to know about Inside students and others who are inside Norco or similar institutions.
I think I just add on what Reggie said. You know, there's a thirst for knowledge inside that place, and a lot of us have been denied, you know, education through this. You know, like I said, I come out of LA, and the LA Unified School District is a joke, to say the least. And so we never really had access to a formal education. You know, for me, I'm self-taught, love to read. And we just, you know, eager. We walking around with dictionaries, like you saying about the inside students. They come, outside students, and come inside the prison, and they see us walking around with books and ink pens and actually taking notes. And I'm flipping pages. They thought I was holding like an encyclopedia or something. Just a Western dictionary, a collegiate level dictionary. And so, yeah, and that's it. We all still have ideas and stuff that we want to learn, and feel our voices need to be heard, but we've been silent for so long just for lack of access to a space, you know, a liberal arts education, the education befitting of a free man. Why? You know, we want it too. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for your eloquence and your forthrightness and your openness to sharing your experience. Sherry and Jenna, I'll turn it to you now. We're going to open it for questions, I think. So I don't know if you want people to just unmute themselves and ask a question, or what will work best. Sherry, Jenna, any input?
Sure. If anyone has any questions, feel free to add them into the chat, or you can press the raise hand feature and we can call on you.
I just put a question in the chat, but I'm happy to ask it if that's helpful. And this is really to the four of you. Do you feel that more individuals who have been incarcerated should have greater access to InsideOut programs? And what are the current barriers to entry and or expansion? Is it funding? Is it interest? Is it beliefs about incarcerated, or individuals who've been incarcerated? What do you think is impacting this?
I'll take it. Yeah, I think it's resources, funding, and because it's a demand inside of prison for, especially at CRC. We were, with a lot of, what is the word I'm looking for? Machiavellian scheming going on to get in the program. It's like everybody was trying to maneuver to see, people were sending notes and hoping, they can get in this program. And since it was only accessible to 10 people initially for original cohort, it was a lot of chaos and confusion about that. A lot of people were upset because they didn't have this access. But just the InsideOut program, period, just not even the credit earning, just to be in that space, in this learning environment, it's a high demand. And so, yeah, it's about the resources. And, being out here now and being a part of the Senate and seeing how these things work and being involved in the decision-making process, how they say the sausage gets made in school. And and in the universities, but yeah, it's just a lack of resources because of high demand for sure.
There was a question about how many inside students do we have a semester. It kind of depends. I think there's about 8 classes happening this semester, and there's 12 inside students for each. So, close to 96, so close to 100, I think, a semester. Since we've started the BA program, we also have to make sure that that those students get all the classes they need to complete the program. So that is kind of a priority, but then there's lots of other students at various kind of levels of their education or various points in their education. Yeah, and maybe Sherry, if you can help me figure out which question to go through to next on the chat there.
Let's go with Megan first, Megan, and then Lisa, and then we can revisit the chat.
Great.
Well, I just wanted to thank all of you, and this whole centering of, well, we could go into the whole centering of structural racism in our society and why this program is needed, which you've alluded to in many ways in your comments, but I also, you centered on the humanity of it and how this is a kind of program that helped each of you feel human and valued and worthy, right? And I think that's also true of the Pitzer students who may come from more traditional, maybe even more upper class backgrounds, because I think they find their humanity in these courses with you, and they see the world in a different way. And perhaps well, I will say my daughter's been in 3 classes. I think it's been core to her experience of finding herself. So I just want to thank all of you for, your participation in this program. Now you're graduates and in the full swing, but the humanity that you have brought to the students from Pitzer as well.
Hi, I just want to commend Pitzer for being involved in the Inside Out program, because I'm a volunteer with College Behind Bars through BU, and they don't mix classes. It's just the professor goes into the prison and works with the students, and then I would visit my incarcerated individual on a monthly basis. But because of COVID, they haven't had classes in person at all, and it's just through snail mail that assignments get assigned and sent back to the professor. And I'm wondering how that's affected the classes at Pitzer with the incarcerated individuals. Thank you.
I'm happy to take that one. Funny you should mention that. This semester, we are right now, we've been doing correspondence, and in spring 2020, when things shut down, it became somewhat of a correspondence kind of course. But then when I taught in spring 2021, we were able to meet virtually. So Norco kind of got up to speed on Zoom and made that available. And it wasn't the same as being in person, but it was actually amazing that there was still kind of this deep kind of connection that was possible virtually. But we have to kind of be flexible and kind of go with whatever is happening. And so right now, I think they're just opening up the dorms, and so we'll probably do virtual, and hopefully by the very end of February we'll be able to be in person. So, but it's every semester has been different, and it's been flexible back and forth. But if any of the panel want to respond to that, because I know you've been in all those different contexts.
Yeah, I'll say something about that. The students were coming in from the outside, and we were joining them inside. We built a community, and because of that, we were able to, when we went virtual via Zoom or Canvas, I think it was Blue Button or something like that at first. Eventually we did Zoom, and we were still able to have that community, even though it was just face-to-face, sort of how we're doing it right now. And it's a space where you could still be yourself, because you could see the other people you're interacting with, and you can still learn and still have questions and push back and discuss, and even go into groups virtually. So it's very, Zoom has been instrumental in being able to navigate through COVID And it's one of the main things that's allowed for us to continue in the program. And so, yeah, that's one of the key things that that has enabled us. So thank you.
And I had a question come into me, and it was tied into the questions on kind of resources and funding. And this question is for Professor Banerjee. How can families help? Is there a way to help fund? What can families be doing to
I mean,
support your efforts and
yeah.
Pitzer's efforts?
So I think just kind of supporting the program, making it known that you think it's a good program, speaking to our, our top administrators about that. And then in terms of, when you're donating to the college, I think there's a line where you can earmark that to justice education and to InsideOut programs, and your gifts can be directed in that way. And we've been fortunate that we actually have a donor who's helping with the BA program. And that was helpful to be able to, as we move that through the college, to be able to say, listen, we're not going to take funding away from other programs. We actually have a donor who's targeted that. So the more of that we can do. Someone had asked about, are there limits on how many students? So our BA cohort is somewhat limited by resources and also the InsideOut program, but we would like the funds to be able to grow all of that as much as possible.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? I'm going back and forth between page 1 and page 2, but if you have a question, please feel free to shout it out. Anyone?
Can I respond to something that I think it was Megan was saying earlier, talking about structural inequalities? And so just to kind of mention the tension, and then maybe I'll ask the panel to speak to that. So that's something we talk about directly in our classes. And we have readings related to that when we're talking about it. And it's quite surreal because, the inside students are living that. And so we see that the education staff at Norco are on board with what we're doing, but there are other custody staff who really aren't. And the more our students start to ascend, the more the system tries to kind of push them back down. And it's this painful kind of, painful to watch, but I can't even imagine for those who are inside. So Kenny, Reggie, Freddie, if there's anything you want to share about what that tension and dynamic is like while you're inside.
So I'll take the lead. There's definitely a culture inside that is different and not liberal, and is very conservative. And they like to view us as prisoners. And no matter what we do or what we're doing as positive will ever change that in their eyes. And so I've learned that circumventing and identifying those people was key for me. But there are definitely some staff members that go against that culture because they themselves have a higher education. And unfortunately, CDCR, one of their requirements for work there doesn't require having a formal degree. So for their staff. And I think that's one of the main things that has provided a gap between students on the inside and the staff, that they can't see us as fellow students or fellow people who are trying to rehabilitate and grow. So I think it is essential maybe for them to hopefully one day see that they also need some type of program for their staff to bridge that gap through higher education. And it's just the culture that's there, and we're used to it. Unfortunately, we many of us were institutionalized for many years, and it's like I tell Ms. Banerjee, Professor Banerjee, and other professors, that I used to feel that as soon as I left that safe place of the classroom where the cohort was in and other students were in, it was almost like, boom, we're back into a different world. We're back into the different lifestyle that we have outside of that space. So it was definitely a different personality change, different viewpoint. And so, yeah, we had to, grow and learn how to mesh both of those lives together. And, I'm just glad I overcame that. And now I don't have to worry about that. Thank God.
Thank you, Freddie. Kenny or Reggie, I don't know if either of you want to add anything.
Yeah, like just to add on to what Freddie was just talking about right now. And I think this question is kind of like tied in with Sherry. You had asked a question earlier about like, do you feel individuals who have been incarcerated should have access to Pitzer's program? And then you asked a secondary question, which we kind of spoke about the resources aspect, but we didn't necessarily talk about the interest, right? And so like, one of the things that this program, first and foremost, is I definitely think like society views incarcerated individuals as subhuman, right? And so because they did the crime, they obviously did the crime and they shouldn't be afforded these type of opportunities. So with a program like this, it's challenging those type of dominant narratives and coming up with the counter narrative. If I'm getting released from prison and I'm going to become your neighbor, why wouldn't you want me to have an education and to have like be in communion with you, right? Is because that's what we are. We're a community, as opposed to like, oh, this person went to prison or anything like that. Like at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're trying to live this life as best as possible. So our interests should be intertwined with one another, right? And that's what I'd like to say in addition to that.
Thank you. Kenny, do you want to leave us with any words of wisdom?
Yes, for me, I would like to, I want to share something that I have a little snippet of a paper I wrote as I took this first class. And it was something that I shared a quote from Thurgood Marshall, Justice Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court. And he said in 1974, in deciding a case where prisons were trying to deny, prisoners books. And so he says that when the prison gate slammed behind an inmate, he does not lose his human qualities. His mind does not become closed to ideas. His intellect does not cease to feed on the free and open exchange of opinions. His yearning for self-respect does not end, nor does his quest for self-realization conclude. If anything, the needs are more compelling in the dehumanizing prison environment. And so I went on to say that this program is an excellent avenue for finding those human qualities in the abyss of prison. It allows for genuine human connection. It's a place to access the free and open exchange of opinions. It's also a place for recognizing some qualities that you may not realize you have. And so I shared this with the Inside students. To the Inside students, I would like to say that meeting new people and learning with them will change your view of some of the stereotypes, and it will expose you to a voice of reason that you may never encounter. This is especially for those who have been caught up in the vicious cycle of recidivism. And there's a quote from the American Library Association 2018 that says, "Learning to be free requires access to a wide range of knowledge." That knowledge is accessible in this program. For the outside students, I would like to say, you will be changed by this experience. Most of you will go on to be the movers and shakers of our society. This program will allow you to see the faces and hear the voices of those that society have labeled as felons and criminals. We are all the same people. We all make mistakes. And I say, I hope you are able to enjoy this program and benefit from as much as I did. Sincerely, Kenneth. And so that was something that my first class, we had to write a letter to future students. And that's what I came up with. So yeah, and I would like to close with that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, if we don't have any other questions, I think the chat is clear. No questions, no raised hands. I just want to give a very special thank you to our panelists and to Professor Banerjee. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your stories with us, being so open and honest. It is so, so appreciated. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone else for being here as well.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
You.
Panel was outstanding.
Yes, here, here.